Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Welcome back to the Bible for Busy People. I'm Jen, and Mother's Day was a few weeks ago. My husband asked me if there was anything in particular I wanted, and he usually does this because even though he has his own ideas, he really wants it to be something that I actually want. But, as I typically do, I deflected the question from what I really wanted, which felt like too much to ask, to something more reasonable. I explained that what I really wanted was tickets to an upcoming concert. But it seemed too expensive and hard to work out, etc., etc. So all that said, I just wanted to ask for a gift card to the spa or something. Even though I didn't express what I really wanted, which I tend to do as if I'm an inconvenience, even though he had directly asked me the question and genuinely wanted to know, he surprised me with tickets and a plan, which left me in tears. How do you answer a direct question like that? What do you want? Do you answer or do you somehow deflect like I did? Maybe when it comes to where you should eat. Oh, wherever you want. If you want dessert, I probably shouldn't. If you have any ideas to contribute, probably nothing useful. Now, Jesus was direct in his line of questioning, and that's what we're talking about this week, Jesus' good questions. He asked something similar in today's passage, which is in Mark 10. Starting in verse 35, it says, "Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. 'Teacher,' they said, 'we want you to do for us whatever we ask.' 'What do you want me to do for you?' he asked. They replied, 'Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory.' 'You don't know what you are asking,' Jesus said. 'Can you drink the cup I drink, or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with?' 'We can,' they answered. Jesus said to them, 'You will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I was baptized with. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared.' When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Jesus called them together and said, 'You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." James and John were pretty direct with Jesus, and he was pretty direct back. They wanted to be highly honored in the kingdom, seated right by Jesus' side. It sounds like they kind of subverted the other disciples with this because the other disciples were upset when they found out. It seemed like there was a lot of inner fighting among the disciples, and that's not to be judgy because we do the same things. Their request reminds me of the prodigal son from Jesus' parable in Luke 15. It was a bold request for his share of the estate. It was nearsighted, surface level, and it didn't take into account the suffering that might be involved. When Jesus asked them, "Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with?" we can assume that he doesn't mean just sharing a glass of water or getting dunked in the river as he had been by John the Baptist. It wasn't as simple as that. One reason we know this is that Jesus prayed for this cup to be taken away from me in Gethsemane before going to the cross. I appreciate the way Sarah Hinlicky Wilson puts it in the Working Preacher commentary. She says, James and John misunderstand the glory they are pursuing actively. For Jesus' baptism is not a matter of action, but of passion. Their boastful assurance, "We are able," earns a response from Jesus, whose irony can only be grasped by those who read to the end of the story. You bet you're going to undergo this baptism, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. This passion, this cross, this heterobaptism, or as Hinlicky Wilson explains, a rite of passage performed by another, then sheds light on what it means to be a leader who serves not by lording, but by submitting. It even illuminates, to a degree, what it is to be a ransom. There is a marked element of helplessness in being the traded token or sacrificial lamb. End quote. But it seems that Jesus was not ready to dive into all that this meant with James and John. Instead, he settled the matter by saying that they would undergo the same things. Again, we recognize this to mean suffering, even though they didn't at the time, and that it wasn't for him to grant that request. Later, he took the opportunity to redirect, that following him wasn't about competing for the top spot, but rather becoming a servant, a role that Jesus exemplified for us. Then we read on in verse 46. It says, "Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, 'Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.' Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, 'Son of David, have mercy on me.' Jesus stopped and said, 'Call him.' So they called to the blind man, 'Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you.' Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. 'What do you want me to do for you?' Jesus asked him. The blind man said, 'Rabbi, I want to see.' 'Go,' said Jesus, 'your faith has healed you.' Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road." So Bartimaeus, a blind man, boldly called out to Jesus, even though others tried to silence him, and this got his attention. Jesus asked that same question, "What do you want me to do for you?" That man was able to say with clarity what he wanted, and Jesus healed him immediately. It was a way in which Jesus lived out what he had just called the disciples to do, living a life of service. So what do you want Jesus to do for you? When you pray, do you ask with clarity and boldness? Do you trust that Jesus wants to know what you want and is willing to act on your behalf? Or do you deflect the question, as I did earlier in the podcast? I'll leave you with that, and let's talk again more tomorrow. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume two things about you. First of all, that you're a busy person, and second, that you are in need of a restful break. Cannon Beach Conference Center is the place for a beautiful coastal retreat. Whether it's one of their enriching conferences or your own church or ministry event, you can find out more at 800-745-1546 or visit cbcc.net. Thank you to Cannon Beach Conference Center for sponsoring the Bible for Busy People.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.